I'm Selena. Sitting at my new desk by the window, I'm looking out at the city lights. It's been months since that fateful night, but the memories still feel vivid. That night changed everything for me, turning my life from a dark abyss into a path of hope and freedom. I remember that night clearly. I was sitting in a private dining room in an upscale restaurant in Boston's Seaport District. The room was filled with soft amber light, and the view of the harbor through the floor-to-the-ceiling windows was beautiful. But I couldn't enjoy it. Opposite me, sitting at the far end of the table, was my husband Ethan. The man who had abandoned me on the side of the road in a storm just hours ago. When he saw me, his entire body jolted. His face went pale as if all the blood had drained from it. I, on the other hand, was wearing a simple but elegant dress that I borrowed from Mr. Thompson's granddaughter. My hair was brushed back, and I forced my expression to be neutral. I no longer looked like the soaked, shivering woman he had left behind. Mr. Thompson, an elderly gentleman who had saved me on the road, introduced me as his granddaughter, Lily. The two business associates, Mr. Harris and Mr. Carter, stood up politely to greet me. I offered a small smile and greeted them, my voice steady. Ethan sat there, his hand tightening around the stem of his water glass until his knuckles turned white. The dinner began, and the conversation shifted to business logistics. Mr. Thompson spoke with quiet authority, his decades of experience in the construction industry evident in every word. Ethan, however, tried to insert himself into the conversation at every opportunity. He started talking about his so-called strong values, like integrity, family, and respect. He even claimed that he was devoted to his wife and always put her first. I felt my chest tighten as I listened to his lies. Just a few hours ago, he had screamed at me, telling me that I had ruined the night and that I should get out of the car. When the appetizers arrived, Mr. Harris joked that Mr. Thompson was a lucky man to have both a strong business reputation and a strong family. Ethan jumped in, saying that strong families were everything and that his wife and he were unshakable. At that word, my pulse hammered. I kept my expression serene and lowered my gaze to my plate. Then, Mr. Harris casually asked Ethan where his wife was that evening. Ethan quickly replied that she was home resting because she wasn't feeling well after a long week. Mr. Thompson's eyes lifted slightly, and I felt my breath catch in my throat. Mr. Thompson then began to tell a story. He said that on his way to the restaurant, he had seen a woman walking alone on Route 12 in near freezing temperatures and heavy rain. The woman was soaked through, her shoes were ruined, and she could barely feel her hands. Ethan's knife clattered against his plate. Mr. Thompson continued, saying that the woman told him that her husband had pulled over during an argument in the storm, yelled at her, and driven away. The room fell into a dead silence. Mr. Carter leaned forward slowly, and Mr. Thompson finally turned to Ethan and said that the woman was me, his wife. Ethan's face collapsed. He stammered, trying to make excuses, saying that I exaggerated things and that I was emotional. But Mr. Thompson silenced him. He said that he had picked me up himself and that I could have been killed. Mr. Harris turned to me gently and asked if it was true. For the first time that night, I allowed myself to speak. I told them what had happened, how Ethan had screamed at me and left me on the side of the road. Ethan was desperate. He tried to defend himself, but Mr. Carter cut him off, saying that they were listening to facts. Mr. Harris and Mr. Carter decided that they couldn't do business with someone who could abandon his wife in such a situation. Ethan's world built on charm and lies crumbled right there at the table. He turned on me with a ferocity, blaming me for ruining everything. But Mr. Thompson stood between us, protecting me. He told Ethan to sit down and that he was responsible for what had happened. Ethan was like a cornered animal, his pride and rage taking over. But his words held no power anymore. After the investors left, Mr. Thompson gently guided me out of the restaurant through an alternate exit. We stepped into the cool night air, and the harbor salt breeze swept across us. He drove me to one of his properties, a restored Victorian building in Back Bay. The apartment was warm and cozy, filled with soft colors, thick rugs, and a faint lavender scent. He told me that I could stay there as long as I needed. He brought me fresh clothes, toiletries, and a bag of groceries. He also gave me a folder with a list of attorneys specializing in family law. I was overwhelmed by his kindness. I had never felt so safe in a long time. In the following weeks, Mr. Thompson offered me a temporary position at Thompson Construction Group. At first, I felt awkward, but the staff was warm and respectful. Mr. Thompson's granddaughter, Olivia, came to the office. She was close to my age, bright and warm-hearted. She hugged me like an old friend and told me that her granddad had told her everything. She invited me for coffee, took me shopping, and insisted that I join their Sunday dinners. I also started therapy with a trauma specialist recommended by Mr. Thompson. It was hard at first, but slowly, I began to find the words to express what I had gone through. The shame that I had carried for years began to loosen its hold. When I finally called my mother after months of distance, she cried with relief. She told me to come home for dinner any time, without any explanations. I realized how much I had missed her. Little by little, my life took shape again. I got a divorce from Ethan. The process was surprisingly simple because the fallout from that dinner had damaged his reputation beyond repair. He didn't fight the divorce, pride and humiliation kept him silent. I moved into a small apartment in Cambridge. It was a brick building with ivy climbing up the side, overlooking a quiet tree-lined street. I bought my first set of dishes, plants, and bedding. I set my own routines and learned to exist without constantly apologizing. Mr. Thompson kept his word. He checked in on me occasionally, always with respect and gentleness. I wanted to thank him. One quiet evening, I sat at my desk and wrote a letter to him. I told him that night on Route 12 had divided my life into before and after. I thought it would be the end of my story, but he helped me see it could be the beginning. I thanked him for stopping, believing me, and helping me when he could have just driven past. As I finished writing the letter and sealed the envelope, I stepped onto my small balcony. The air was crisp, a hint of summer in the spring chill. The city lights glimmered below, and the hum of the city was a comforting sound. I wrapped my cardigan tighter around myself and took a long, steady breath. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. I was safe, free, and myself again. The night that once took everything from me had become the night that gave me a new beginning.